Okay, so I think the connection here suggests that I need to go live. It's a rather strange thing. During the month of Ramadan, I've spoken at length from studio, so this is rather different. My name is Ashraf Garda. Now, you know that during Ramadan, we've been chatting to the team from Sentio Capital extensively about the work they do and the products they have, and they can invest on your behalf. So we thought, let's take it one step further now. As always, we've always chatted to Imtiaz uh, Suliman, who's the portfolio manager at Sentio. Imtiaz, once again, appreciate your time. Salaam alaikum. Post Ramadan, right?
Wa alaikum salam. Yes, thanks, Ashraf. Good to be back with you again.
Thank you so much. Right. Let's maybe just do a recap understanding of where you fit in with regards to investors who want to invest to grow and have growth in their incomes, but who also want to be very ethical about where their money goes. I mean, tell me where you fit in there.
Yeah, thank you. I think from an overall perspective, Sentio is an asset management company, and what we offer clients are unit trusts for them to invest into savings, into a savings vehicles, whether they want to save for retirement, whether they want to save for expenses that are in the future, and just general savings that they want to earn a return from. And our philosophy is all about investing for good. And what does that mean? Investing for good means that when we do invest, we invest ethically, as you mentioned, but also it's from a Sharia compliance perspective. There's certain aspects that make an investment either Sharia compliant or not. And there's some qualitative factors, which is the ones that are strictly prohibited in terms of the Quran and the Sunnah. For example, that would be we are not allowed to invest into any shares or businesses that trade in alcohol, in pork, and in interest-based transactions. In terms of tobacco, for example, those would be excluded. And then from a financial perspective, which is the quantitative part, you can't invest in companies that are over leveraged, for example. And we know debt and interest is haram from a Sharia perspective. And we've seen that, in the 2008 financial crisis, a lot of the companies and financial companies that were over leveraged in terms of their balance sheet, they had too much debt, they came under considerable pressure, and some of them went bankrupt. So it's the whole Sharia compliance aspect that we follow. And this appeals to a wider audience as well. It's not just for investors of Muslim faith. There's a lot of investors that share the same ethical principles in terms of moral activities, and they also are drawn to these funds for their own beliefs.
And you find, I mean, there's a growing market of that, whether they're Muslim or they're not Muslim, of people who want to make sure that one thing is to grow their portfolio or their wealth, but the other is to make sure that it goes in the right places. That means they understand that where they invest contributes overall to how society shapes up in meeting a whole series of challenges. I mean, do you find that is growing, that demand?
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing that trend. Investors are very conscious in terms of how their money is put to work, and ultimately, where does that savings go into? For example, people are very socially aware with the advent of social media news that travels around the world in an instant, and people do want to make sure that their own beliefs are followed, and also in terms of their savings. So we're seeing definitely an increase of people of other faiths investing in the Sharia funds. Also, there's another aspect to that. In terms of the performance of the Sharia funds, they've also performed very well, and they're very comparable to any of the conventional funds out there. So there's two aspects. The one is the social beliefs, the moral aspects, but the other one is also in terms of investment outcomes. One doesn't get prejudice from investing in a Sharia fund in any way.
And why do you think that's the case? I mean, that's interesting because often people think that if you want to invest in a Sharia compliant fund that is ethically sound, but there would be some compromises because the returns on investment may be less than what is traditional. And you're saying, in fact, it's on a par, or if not better. If that's the case, why would that be the case?
Yeah, I think what we've seen is the one aspect is the what I mentioned earlier, just in terms of over leveraged companies. When things are tough and when there are macro stresses, those companies do come under considerable pressure and their performance gets impacted quite a bit. So, markets go through different cycles. You have recessions, you have booms, you have busts, and the weaker companies do fall over. So, from a Sharia perspective, one is prohibited from investing in over leveraged companies. That insulates you to some extent. And then there's certain aspects from a Sharia investing aspect that is beneficial to the Sharia investor. So, for example, investing in companies that are of quality in terms of their nature. So, they have very good cash flows. They have hard tangible assets that stands them in good stead when things do get tough. And then, there's certain other portfolio construction aspects, and this, it might be a bit technical, but in terms of in constructing a portfolio, you have a very well diversified portfolio across different industries and sectors, which mitigates you from being exposed to too much of one risk at any one point in time. So there's quite a few different aspects, but putting that all together, it's definitely not the case whereby a Sharia investor is compromised, although they're limited in terms of their investment universe.
And that's why an investor needs to contact you guys, which we'll get those details just in a moment, right? Let's talk about unit trusts. I mean, first of all, I think I know what unit trusts are, but let's not assume everybody else does. What is a unit trust, and how does that differ from investing in other, more traditional shares?
Yeah. Basically, a unit trust is a pooled investment vehicle whereby an investor buys units into a fund. And what the unit trust fund does is it invests according to its investment mandate. So we've got two unit trusts in the Sharia space. The one is the Sentio Sharia Balance Fund, and the other is a Sentio Sharia Equity Fund. And the difference between the two is the Balance Fund has different asset classes that it can invest in. So, for example, it can invest in shares, it can invest in sukuks, which is an income instrument, and into commodities. But also, what is quite important is that a unit trust has liquidity. So, if an investor puts his money or her money into the unit trust and they want to access that money at one point in time, they can do that almost immediately. They put in a sell instruction, they'll get the money into their account within 1 to 3 days, for example.
And therefore, you have specific unit trusts or pools of share investment that you recommend.
Yeah, that's right. So we have those two unit trusts, and we invest in different underlying instruments. So an investor doesn't have to make their own choice. So in terms of which share to buy and which share to sell, that is done by us, the asset manager, and we take all of the aspects into account. So the Sharia aspects, buying Sharia compliant instruments for that fund, and also selling out of shares when we think the valuation has reached its full potential, and finding new opportunities so that we can meet the investment targets and objectives of the fund at hand.
We'll greet you whilst you enjoy your morning coffee. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Buckler's Africa Lodge is ideally situated only 6 kilometers from the Crocodile Bridge Gate in the Kruger National Park. Catering for all travelers with variety, we have 4 types of the finest rooms: superior rooms, deluxe suites, and 2-bedroomed family units. Each room is equipped with the finest amenities to make your stay unforgettable. Guests can choose between the self-catering option or book their accommodation with breakfast and dinner included. Buckler's Africa Lodge is your ideal location for the ultimate Kruger getaway experience. We specialize in exhilarating and educational game drives in Kruger, tailor-made to suit your family. Inquire about our various accommodation offerings and other activities. Visit www.tingana.co.za for more information. Buckler's Africa Lodge by Tingana Collection. Experience the pulse of Africa with us.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media. Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Tens of thousands of lives have been shattered with the recent earthquake in Turkey and Syria. This is the most devastating earthquake to hit the region in nearly a century. Ashraful Aid teams are providing much-needed assistance. Donate today at www.ashrafulaid.org.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Want to invest, you look at their own risk appetite to invest, right? But conversely, you also look at the risk appetite of the companies or the shares that they invest in, right? How do you square the two up between, where you sit in the middle, then you've got the investor, and then you've got the share of the company investing in, and they have very, very different risk appetites and certainly different risk appetites, and therefore considerations to make before you make final decisions on their behalf.
Yeah, thanks, Ashraf. I think that's a great question. In terms of what we try and do is we invest in companies that we think will give us a return to meet the different objectives of the funds that we manage. So, for example, when you invest into a unit trust, you don't only buy into one share or one instrument. There's multiple different shares that make up part of that unit trust. And what that allows us to do is also to manage the risk. And they say one of the only free lunches in investments is diversification. So you don't put all of your eggs into just one basket. And that's very important because companies do go through hard times. We didn't have any sign-off, for example, and that's us looking at the risk of the company and also being not comfortable of the valuation of the company, and that stood us in good stead. So it's important to build a portfolio that's very diversified, and also to make sure that the risk that one takes in the portfolio is not excessive. So you also control the risk from that aspect. And then thirdly, make sure as an investment manager, we're taking conscious risk. And what that allows us to do is to know exactly where we're investing into, how much exposure we have to any one instrument at a point in time, but also what is the impact from any movements in for example, if interest rates go up, how will that impact the portfolio? And this is all part of the investment process that we follow, and it's a very rigorous process that's robust. And risk management, as you mentioned, is key to the investment process. But I just want to highlight, it's not the avoidance of risk, it's the active conscious taking of risk that allows us to choose those instruments that are going to outperform over the long term.
And I'm thinking, as I talk to you, suddenly being even more aware of the responsibility that someone like yourself as a portfolio manager takes in making decisions on behalf of people, isn't it? It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, most definitely. We always stressed quite frequently within the team that we investing on behalf of widows and pensioners out there, orphans money, and it's a very heavy responsibility that we have, but also something that we've got a very capable team in place. There's a lot of resources that go into managing money, and it's done very professionally. So from an Islamic perspective, it's an amanat, and that's why there's a lot of rules and regulations that we need to follow, which is governed by the FSCA, the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. The unit trust is a regulated vehicle. And there's a lot of rules and regulations that we need to follow, but also make sure that we invest responsibly on behalf of our clients. And you're most definitely right. It's a very heavy responsibility that we take quite seriously.
Would give an investor comfort to say the amounts of checks and balances that form part of decision making. If there's nothing else, then perhaps all it leaves us with to ask you is contact details. So how can we get hold of you?
Yeah, I think the best place would be to go onto the Sentio Capital website, which is www.sentio-capital.com. A lot of information would be there. There's also contact numbers there. And then we also on the various social media platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram as well, where one can find the Sentio Capital pages. And if there's any more info that they would like or need, they could either give us a call on the number that's on the website, or send us an email as well, and we'll get back to any investor in terms of the questions that they might have.
Invest for good. I think that should resonate with investors. Imtiaz, thanks for your time. Most appreciated.
Jazak.
There we are. Imtiaz Suliman from Sentio Capital, the portfolio manager there. And important information that I think that will help you in making the type of decisions that you ought to be making in terms of where your money goes to get the growth that you need, and the type of checks and balances that takes place within a specific investor that invests on your behalf. So in this case, a portfolio manager. Until next time, then, Salam Alaikum.